Okay, it says it's live.
Okay. It is 7:03. Apologize for the late start. Had some technical difficulties this evening. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. Regular meeting for the City Council of Woodland. This is their meeting this evening, so if I can get everyone to please silence your cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Mrs. Anderson, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Graham?
Here.
Councilmember Plaza?
Here.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Holland?
Present.
Councilmember Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember...
Mrs. Anderson, do you have a proclamation? Never mind. Thank you. School Choice Week, January 26th through February 1st, 2020. Unfortunately, the school district is unable to attend this evening to receive the proclamation, but I'll go ahead and read it into the record now. Whereas all children in the City of Woodland should have access to the highest quality education possible, and whereas the City of Woodland recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in the City of Woodland to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of the City of Woodland, and whereas the City of Woodland is home to a multitude of excellent education options from which parents can choose for their children, and whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas our area has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children, and whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, I, William A. Finn, do hereby recognize January 26th through February 1st, 2020 as School Choice Week, and I call this observance to the attention of all our citizens, dated this 21st day of January 2020. All right, moving on to citizen communication for items not on the agenda. I have no one on the agenda or signed up. Now's your opportunity to step forward for those who failed to do so at the beginning of the meeting. Moving on for citizen communication for items on the agenda. I have no one signed up at this time. If you failed to do so at the beginning of the meeting, now's your opportunity to step forward. All right, moving on to the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as
Second.
presented.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, second by Councilmember Chapman. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Yes, I will. Oops, sorry. Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
The agenda has been passed. There is no public hearings this evening. Moving on to reports of City Council. Mr. Chapman.
I attended the chamber banquet dinner, if you want to call it, this weekend, or last weekend. It was very good. Nice to see our representatives there and good city turnout. Whole tossing. And back in the back had ring toss. I was asked not to come back to the ring toss anymore because I wasn't rearing too much.
Did you get it on the bottle?
3 times.
Oh my gosh, where was
I
I?
was asked not to because, as you know, when we played bocce ball, kind of, yeah.
Carl's the man to have on your team.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I guess. I was asked not to come back anymore. I said, oh, kid.
You were asked by the children not to come back? Yeah. The children were running that game.
Sir, can you not? Yeah, okay, got it.
It was the FBLA kids, wasn't it? You're cutting into their profit is what you were doing.
That's kind of funny.
Awesome. Mrs. Graham.
Well, last night we have attended a ceremony that we selected our 3 new members of our royal court for 2020. So we have Princess Ashley, Princess Emerson, and Princess Jasmine. and start squirreling away the dollar bills because I ordered tickets today and they will have them in a couple of weeks.
Ms. Graham, what color?
They're going to be teal blue
Teal blue.
or something close to that nature.
All right. Anything else?
Yes.
That's all you got?
Yeah, for this one. I'm
Okay.
waiting.
Oh, you're going to wait for the other one? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait
Okay.
for the
I was
other one.
waiting for you to continue, but you're going to wait. All right.
Or do you want me to?
No, you just wait until you have something to say. Anyone else? All right. Moving on to reports of standing committee, finance and general government.
Yes, we met on January 13th. We did not have a full committee, so we decided to hold off on electing a chair for that, so I'll report on this one. We did either refer to council or move to council without a consideration of a due pass recommendation, just refer to the council without a referral. Items D, E, F, G, H, and I on tonight's agenda. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 3rd. Here is it in this room, Ms. Anderson?
Yeah.
At 5:30.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Fredericks at this time? I'd like to note that there will be some changes to council rules coming forward because we made we've rearranged those. We'll need to who met tonight? HR and public safety? We'll probably, if there's no objection, we'll bring forward those rules to put public safety and HR on this meeting for the second meeting of every month, and finance, general government, and public works on the first meeting for reporting every month. Is there any issues or conflicts that council will have with that?
Well, as long as the HR committee and the public safety committee aren't meeting at the same time, because I'm on both.
The HR committee is going to be the first meeting of the...
At 4:30.
Oh, did I get those wrong?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So what's going to be at the first, finance and HR?
Okay, so HR is going to be at the first week.
Okay.
HR will be first
Okay.
Monday.
First Monday, sorry. So finance and HR, and then second meeting will be public works and public safety.
Okay.
We'll be reporting during council. Sorry, I got that
So are
wrong.
these going to get updated? Because this was connected to that agenda and everything starts at 5:30.
Let me see, I just got one sent out here. Look at me throwing a wrench into it. That wasn't... Where is the updated calendar here? I'll have to look back. What's that one say? They start at 4:30. Can I see that, please?
I printed.
Finance and 5:30 for Human Resources first Monday. And then we've got 5:30 for Public Safety and 5:30 for Public Works.
In different rooms.
In different rooms, yes.
Right.
Yes, in different rooms.
Okay.
Okay. I think originally it was at 4:30 due to conflicts, but we've cleared up those conflicts now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. But we had conflicts with dueling council members.
And I will send
Well,
out...
not dueling, sorry, let me take that back. Hold on. Just 1 second, Mr.
Just to
Boyce.
make sure everyone...
What, serving on multiple committees, sorry, at the same time. Not, they weren't actually fighting. Sorry, that's...
I think if that happened, you'd get more people to show up those committee meetings.
All right, Mr. Boyce, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention I'll re-email out the schedule so everyone has it.
Okay, thank you. So, council's okay with that, for reporting during meetings. I just want to make sure, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, just giving direction. I'm just seeing a need that needs to be fixed, that's all.
Silence is agreement.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll bring that forward. Reports of advisory committees. Chamber of Commerce reports. Mrs. Graham.
Last Saturday on the 18th, we had our celebration of business banquet. We had the chamber had selected our Employee, Business, and Citizen of the Year, and Tina Caton, who is Schultz Photography, and I'm sure you have seen him if you've been to any of our events or Scott Hill Park events or whatnot. He does take all of our pictures, and he has a nice drone that he flies, so we get great pictures, and he's an awesome guy. And then our Citizens of the Year are Craig and Robin Chilton. We were fortunate enough Saturday night to we're able to surprise all three honorees, so expressions on faces were priceless, and it was a lot of fun. I felt much pleasure in being able to be part of those shenanigans, so it was a lot of fun. And then on February the 20th, the Chamber is holding an open house at the Visitor Center and Chamber office. Our new board will be in, and we have our new executive director, and we would like to have as many people come and meet our people. If you have questions to ask them, then you will know who they are. And have a little snack and a little social time with us at the Chamber, so we can all be notable, or whatever word at this late at night I can't come up with. So, and as usual, we are still at the Grange at noon on Tuesday, and it's a bring your lunch situation. And today we had Mr. Goddard and Melissa Johnson come in and do our program and updated on the Exit 21 situation. So I think that's about the size of it for tonight. Okay. There will be more coming, but due to our time, our executive director will be putting together some more notes or information for the future.
Okay. Nice. Questions for Mrs. Graham? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Graham.
You're welcome.
Moving on to reports of city officers, limited this evening to myself and Mr. Boyce. I too attended the chamber dinner over the weekend, which was wonderful. It was a good time. It was nice seeing representatives from our legislative district, Richard DeBolt and Representative Orcutt, and also a Chehalis council member, Peter Abenaro, I think I said his name right at the end there, made his way down to celebrate with us and had nothing but positive things to say about it. So that was wonderful that the chamber was able to put that on and represent. What's that?
I don't know him.
Oh, you don't know him. I'm sorry. We didn't get a chance to introduce you. Also in attendance, all three port commissioners were there.
Yes.
Were they all three there?
Yes.
All three were there. So great turnout, representing the city on elected level and business level as well. I did win a centerpiece, just so everyone's aware of it. I have some beautiful flowers in my home right now. I outdid myself when I said, honey, I got you some flowers. So, and thank you to Mrs. Mashambon, too, for buying those raffle tickets for me, just so it's on the record. I didn't buy it myself. And also the Red Canoe opening was last Thursday for Chamber After Hours, which was fantastic. Big turnout to open that up to some new partners here in the city who was already giving back before they even opened, and already giving back again on Ribbon Day. And did I hear a number of how many folks signed that wall?
266, I believe, is
what
they reported today at Chamber Lunch.
Okay, and each one of those signatures gets a $5 bill attached to it for the Woodland Action Center. Fantastic. That's awesome. Also this evening I would like to discuss with Council Park Board vacancies. Currently right now, code states that, Mr. Boyce, maybe I'll let you explain it and then I will take it from there. Our code states that we can accept applications from outside the city.
Right. So
there's no requirement.
Our code just is not specific about the qualifications to become a park board member. So right now, the way the code reads, anyone could apply. The mayor still needs to nominate that person to city council, and city council has the discretion to accept that nomination or not. But right now, there aren't restrictions on the qualifications to be a park board member. Other boards, we have requirements of residency, or sometimes we allow folks outside the city limits, but there are particular reasons why. But the park board ordinance is moot to that point. So right now, folks who live outside the city limits could be eligible at the discretion of city council to fill those positions.
And to follow that up, we currently have at least one person seeking a seat on one of the vacant, two folks seeking seats for the two vacancies that live outside the city. So before I brought them forward to council, I wanted to have the discussion about the rules and get a feeling in a sense from you folks if you were okay with that, or if we need to update the code to put the limitation of city resident. I didn't want to just pull a fast one, so I'd like to have that discussion. Mrs. Graham?
I had a question,
Oh, go ahead, fire away.
I think. Well, I was wondering, can we have a specific statement made that we could take and put on our chamber website? And then is it also that I could announce at our chamber luncheon so that some of our business people or other citizens that come to our meeting would be aware of this if they haven't seen any other advertisement or something?
Right, and when we did advertise it, erroneously, it was advertised saying that you had to be a city resident. So, yeah, we
Because I would be more than happy to put it on our
Sure.
agenda next week and
Yeah.
let other people know.
I guess we were just looking to see if city council wanted to amend that ordinance and change that lack of requirement. Or we could we do have two applications right now that we could bring forward.
Well, my feeling is if we can't get people inside the city, we can try it and see how it's going to work. I don't know, I don't guess I have a problem with the parks, with someone being on there from outside the city.
Okay. Mr. Plaza?
I am pretty much on the same train of thought as Ms. Rounds, Councilmember Rounds. If people in the city aren't willing to step up and do what needs to be done, I don't see why we can't have somebody from outside the city as long as their qualifications and their knowledge is adequate to do what we need them to do. So,
Mind you, I'm not looking to put somebody on there from Portland or Seattle.
Oh, exactly.
Someone
Right.
that has a vested interest in the
but we
community.
have, Woodland residents that live out in the county,
Right.
so.
Maybe it could be the Woodland School District, or
Okay.
Or
Just to
within
make
the
sure.
zip code?
pardon?
Within the zip code?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
something to that effect.
Mr. Smith?
I don't personally have a problem with somebody who wants to be involved with our parks being outside of the city limits, but if there are somebody that is in the
I agree.
Okay.
I think it should be the district, but preference to someone who resides in the city. This is a committee that makes the recommendations to the council, and the council ultimately decides whether or not it's going to proceed with spending the money for whatever it is that they want. So there is a process that they go through. Their recommendations will go through when they come here out of their committee. So I'm fine with it. We are obviously struggling already to get participation, so I'm okay with that.
Okay. Preference to zip code versus school district boundaries. Mr. Boyce?
So just for clarification, what I'm hearing is don't amend the ordinance. Let the mayor use his discretion, but we're talking Woodland zip code, preference to Woodland citizens. Is that what I'm?
That's what I'm hearing, yes. Okay. Thank you. On the agenda this evening, you have Consent item F, approval of modification to special event fee for Clark County Fire and Rescue for 2020 Planters Days Barbecue and at Horseshoe Lake Shelter. Mr. Friedrich may be able to speak more to this because it went to Finance Committee. We've had a number of back and forth communication with Mr. Buer, stating that he is apologetic that he was unable to get the finances for the barbecue to council this evening, but I'm not quite sure what the recommendation was. I think there was a modified recommendation that came out of the Finance Committee to lower the fee, which he was appreciative of, and he has taken information back to his group to discuss future financing and potential raising of fees. So they are discussing it, but he apologizes that he got double booked this evening and was unable to get the finances over to council.
Speak to it a little
Okay,
bit.
go ahead.
I do believe we made a recommendation to modify the total amount. I think there was there's a sentence here on the budget summary sheet that said that $475 is 16% of our net income. And when I ran those numbers, it didn't add up to me. It seems awfully low, given the fact that most of the product is donated. And
This is their numbers, not ours.
yes,
Okay.
correct. Their numbers seemed awfully low, and I think when I did 16%, it was roughly they were making a little over $3,000. Given the number of sandwiches they sell, it would seem to me that it would be a lot higher than that. So
He did send over, and I don't know, did
Yeah.
you get the list of items that they purchase? Was that provided to you?
No, just
Okay.
we just got this number. So there was some question there, but we decided it was our recommendation to reduce the fee,
Okay.
but not take it all away.
Okay. I guess I wanted to speak to that so council understands that he stated that something would be provided this evening and it's not here. Also, action item I, resolution 716 regarding the sales tax and affordable housing tax credit that the state put into effect. It's not a ton of money, but if we don't take action, I'm sorry, not we, you. If council does not take action this evening, the money automatically will be given to the county. And this has to be done by the 23rd of this month in order for the city to gather up this money. We're not sure what we're going to recommend doing with it at this point. Mr. Goddard is working on another project, and help me out with the name of it. Housing study.
It's a grant for an affordable housing plan.
So hopefully we can come up with some kind of a study and some kind of a plan moving forward, but this money could be used potentially for a project down the road or for emergency housing at this point, from our understanding and the rules of that. I'm asking council pass this evening. I believe that the county already takes enough money from us, and this is just another few $1,000s that they would be getting, and I think we can put it to better use than they can. So I'm asking for a pass on that. And
What's the ramifications of taking it?
nothing. It's no cost to, there's no cost to the taxpayers. It's just a reallocation from the state.
Okay, no commitment, real commitment from the city?
No.
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 All right.
I know where you're going with that. No, I wouldn't do that. Not without further discussion. And with that, Chief Knorr. Mr. Jackson was unable to make it this. I even put his name tag out on the chair for him and everything.
He sends his apology for not being here. He had to make a unexpected trip to Indianapolis
Gotcha.
to visit his wife.
Okay.
I'm going to pass out a some statistics that I will go over a little further into my presentation. It's a brief presentation. But just to talk about run volume in the city of Woodland this year. All right. So in the fire service, response statistics and our ability to respond to incidents are important to us. As you know, Woodland, our fire station here in Woodland is one of 5 staff fire stations in the district that we staff every day with 2 or 3 career firefighters as well as volunteer firefighters. So Woodland is a very popular place for our volunteers to be at, and we staff the station here the people assigned here, one of the two each day is a paramedic. Because we are so far from our ambulance response areas, our ambulances tend to come from either the core of the Vancouver area, or if they're not able to supply one, the private ambulance provider, then it comes from Longview. So we get long response times up here, so we try to make sure there's a paramedic here every single day. And because of the variety of call types, our volunteers like to sign up here. So while we have a minimum of 2 career staff members here each and every day, there are many days we have 3 career and 1 or more volunteers. So it's not terribly uncommon to have 4 people on the rig here each day. In 2017, for comparison purposes, 2017, within the city of Woodland, there were 903 responses, emergency responses. 2018, that dropped to 888. In 2019, last year, it bumped up to 1,024 emergency responses. Beginning in May of this year, we changed our records management system, and we bought a product called ESO, and that product allows us to interface with responses that other departments in the county are using. So Fire District 6 in Hazeldale, City of Vancouver, Fire District 3 in the Battleground area, and ourselves are all using this ESO reporting program. And we went live with it May 21st. So there were 294 incidents January 1st through April 30th that I captured in the old system. It gets a little busy, so I didn't pan that one out also. But if you were to look at this, some of the statistics we get now, we get a tremendous amount of graphs, charts, and other statistics. I have it now that we couldn't before. But if you look at that top one, from May 1 through December 31st, there were 730 incidents within the city limits of Woodland. And you'll see that 2 days in there, a day in June and a day in September, there were 10 incidents within the city. And then there were several days down there with 1 incident, and I believe that we're still learning on their reporting system here. There are a few days in there where it's a little bit flat at the bottom. Those were days that likely no incidents occurred in the city. 73% of our calls are emergency medical in nature. The other 27% fall into the fire category, but some of those are also public service calls and some other things of a less minor nature. So don't picture when we say 27% of 730 are fires, that's not a lot of house fires burning down, vehicle fires, or things like that. It's a wide variety of calls. If you go down into the chart there, it shows for each month, May through December, and then the totals of the fire types. So we had 1 structure fire here, so that's generally a business or a house. Had a car fire, 2 different car fires, and then as you see there in June, July, that's our natural vegetation fires. That's the brush fire season. Even though in the city we don't get as many of those, we'll still get them here. Much more prevalent in the unincorporated areas where people are building into the housing and building into the forest and that. Over that course of that time, 25 rescue type calls, just an even 500 EMS calls. I didn't make that number up, that's how the computer tallied it. But if you roll on the back side of the sheet, it does some other call types, and I'd like to figure out a way we're going to change the header so it has the months across the top also, but it's the same idea if it were to carry on the other types of calls that we go on in there. You'll see a type of call, and these categories are a national reporting system. So NFIRS is the National Fire Incident Reporting System. It's used all across the country. The U.S. Fire Administration, a portion of the federal government, directs us to collect that information, turn it in. And so a public service assistance call, a lot of people don't know that as a fire department we do a lot of things for people. If they for example, somebody's going to change out a sink in their house and they break the water line at the wall and they need the water shut off and they don't always know how. 911, if it's not a police call, it's a fire call. We'll go out and we'll shut off the water at the street and we'll help them mop it up to stop the loss within their house. Sometimes people are, sometimes they're elderly or they have some other conditions that occasionally they slip to the floor. They don't really need in-home care. They'll call us up, and we don't preempt an emergency call for that, but we'll go out and pick up people and put them back in bed. So that's where you see a high number of public service assistance calls. So there's some information to digest there on our call volume. Just want to tell you a little bit about what else is going on. We do a lot of mutual aid with our partners. So this station here will run mutual aid with Cowlitz County Fire District 1. Quite often, that's the district that surrounds the city. So in 2019, we provided mutual aid to Cowlitz 1 on 50 occasions, and we received mutual aid from them on 3 occasions. So if there's an incident going on, a structure fire, a car crash on the River Road, or something that needs a response, we want to be good neighbors. We're here to help, and we help out when we can. When you get a good crash on the highway, you don't always ask for people for ID and say, where do you live? Are you in the city or not? If it's close to city limits, we'll respond out and help out. A couple things that you'll see that force some run volume down over the next year is change in freeway responses. So starting in September of this last year, we only go on confirmed injury crashes on the freeway. So oftentimes people are phoning in car crashes on the freeway, unknown if injury, and they would roll law enforcement as well as fire. And we send 2 units on the freeway. It's a very dangerous situation to be out there on the freeway. So one unit generally sets up a safety corridor while the other unit works on the crash. And we found that over the course of a year, district-wide, because we have 14 miles of I-5, we're going about 400 calls, crashes each year on I-5, and about 110 of those calls were not injured, no injuries there. We didn't need to be out there. We didn't need to create a safety zone for the incident or put ourselves in harm's way. So we'll see the number of freeway crashes going down in the next year. And this unit here responds to a lot of those. I should go back and say that the unit here out of this station had about 1,200 responses. So 1,024 of them were in the city limits. About 200 of them were outside of the city, so into the northern part of Clark County, or assisting farther down into the district, or mutual aid with some of our other neighbors out here. We did do a couple of changes this year at the first of the year. So you'll notice that the tower ladder, the Quint, is no longer in service here. We have an engine in service here, and the tower ladder was moved down to the Ridgefield Junction station. That station had not been staffed previously. We've closed the downtown Ridgefield station and put it up for sale in anticipation in the next few years of building on some other property farther out in Ridgefield. But it made more sense to have the ladder truck at the Ridgefield Junction station, so we now run an engine out of this station, and we've moved our water tender from storage over here at the roundabout, and it's here all the time also. So just as a reminder, our water tenders are run by volunteers. We have volunteer firefighters, so if we need water brought to us, if there's some place that doesn't have hydrants, volunteers respond out and bring that water tender with us. Later in the year, when we get into brush fire season, we'll probably move a brush unit over here out of storage so that it can respond quicker also. We are hiring 3 new firefighters on February 1st, 1 per shift. So the fire department's broken up into A shift, B shift, C shift. There'll be 1 per shift, and that will help keep more units at 3 per day, but also allows us to not spend as much on overtime, gives us a little bit of a cushion if there's a sick leave or vacation leave on there. Some other exciting things going on in the district. The Board of Commissioners authorized us in early December to move forward with the purchase of a new fire engine. Fire engines are very expensive, about $620,000 plus sales tax, about $50,000 in sales tax on that. That one hurts every time, but okay. As a public entity, we will pay sales tax on our engines. New self-contained breathing apparatus, $550,000 for all new self-contained breathing apparatus. That's the air tanks that the firefighters wear so they can go into smoky atmosphere or otherwise dangerous atmosphere. 7 new thermal imaging cameras. So these are cameras that we use to look through smoke. So if we're doing a search in somebody's house and we're looking for a body, it has a different heat signature than the firewood or that the fire would have, or anything cool around it, so we can see through smoke with those. The ones that we had are approaching 15 years old. They were getting worn out. So every frontline rig in the district will get one. 7 new mobile data computers, so every frontline rig in the district plus the battalion chief rig gets a new mobile data computer. That's where we get dispatched through that, all the information that comes to us through that. And 3 new sets of extrication tools. So the extrication tools are used when people are entrapped in a vehicle during a crash, and so those 3 sets go to our units that most often need them. That'll be the Woodland station, the Ridgefield Junction station, and the Dollars Corner station, but at about $40,000 a set. It's really fascinating. They've come a long ways over the years. So when I started, the extrication tools were a 2-stroke generator that if you didn't pull your shoulder out trying to start it and you didn't flood it and you finally got it started, you were attached to a short piece of hose and you had to lift about a 75-pound hydraulic spreader head to get a car open. They've come to the point now where they look somewhat similar, but they're battery powered, just like your tools you would have that you buy at Home Depot. You use them, they're hydraulic, they can cut a tremendous amount. I've heard they can apply 200,000 pounds of pressure on the cutter heads, and if the battery goes out, you slap a new battery on and off you go. So I'm really excited about getting those on our rigs because it's hard when you're trying to extricate somebody that's down a ditch or they've gone off the freeway and you're tethered to that line and you got to haul that generator with you. So a lot of good things going on in the district and a lot of good things happening right here at Woodland. Any I look forward to bringing a full year or of incident stuff, and if on May 1st you want to do a one-year look back, May 1 to April 30th, I can bring that, and a whole lot more charts that as a numbers nerd, I find them quite fascinating, but I'd be happy to share them.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you spoke about hydrants and areas that don't have hydrants. What areas of the city are concerned?
It's not as much of a concern in the city. So as a city, you're required to have well, not required, but cities generally have water systems. And our expectation is they'd have a correct fire flow in them. But we do have areas immediately adjacent to the station that do not have hydrants. So as soon as you cross the CC Bridge and you get in the northern part of Clark County, there's no hydrants there, so we need to bring our own water. If there were areas where the city was expanding but the roads hadn't been put in place yet, you wouldn't have hydrants there yet. So you could have some areas within city boundaries that don't have a hydrant there, then we'd bring our own water to it.
Okay, gotcha.
For the most part, it's good, provided you got the right volume and pressure within the hydrant.
I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick. So that's being stored there for mutual aid?
No, within our own district also. Okay. So we have 3 tenders. We have a tender at Ridgefield Junction, a tender at Dollars Corner, and this tender here. And so if there was a fire at the mobile home park right across the river on Pacific Highway, the tender would respond to that. Okay. And we would have 2 of the 3 tenders.
And that's technically your guys' area of responsibility?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I'm trying to get there real quick just to close some loops here. When we talk about the mutual aid, and I know that we don't get a check back, but when we look at you said 1,250 calls, is that correct?
Correct.
Or around about 1,250. Is that possible to do with a volunteer force? In your professional opinion, by bringing volunteers back into the city and not having your contract, would our volunteers be able to run 1,250 calls?
No. I mean, the short answer is no, but the reason is you're looking at 3 to 4 calls per day spread out. There's sometimes that there's multiple calls going on at one time, all through the day and night, and most places are having a real difficulty doing it with volunteers, and a lot of the responses, even where we go into Fire District 1, our neighbors right here, is because during the day they have a hard time fielding a crew to turn out. So it's not uncommon for them to call on us for assistance. But we also know that at nighttime we can call them and we'll get a tender or an engine from them when people tend to be home. But it's at that type of run volume, it's really not realistic to try and staff it with strictly volunteers.
Okay. Perfect.
There is a depth that you get here with being part of Clark County also that, for example, there was a very significant call on Thursday evening here in the city. Now, the Engine 29 was up at the high school dealing with an incident there, and so that incident, because there were 3 patients at the scene, essentially 3 critical patients, you immediately got 2 more engines in the center in the Ridgefield Junction engine on the road down here to handle. And so if a lot of volunteer departments might have a hard time covering that many simultaneous incidents. And I do notice that, and I'd mentioned during the public safety meeting, I need to dig a little deeper into the software and figure out how to measure the simultaneous calls. So, because that's a good measurement too of when, at some point you need a second unit. Okay, so the national standard is basically, well, you start hitting 2,500 runs, that's too much for one unit to handle. They're doing nothing but running from call to call to call annually. So you put a second unit in place with them. But depending on the call diversification, you may have a type of area that generates double calls more often than not. So we'll look at that. Obviously, at 1,200 calls, we're only halfway there, but if incident volume moves up, we got to look at that.
I only bring that up not to put you on the spot or to question the job that you're doing. It's just, there's still some within the community that believe that a volunteer system would still be a good idea for us, and looking at these numbers and what you're describing, well, I appreciate the fact that you're here. As someone that lives in this city, and I just appreciate the fact that you're here, and I can pick up the phone and somebody's going to show up, and if you guys are on a call, you've got some cover down going, and we're still being protected. So
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I have mentioned before, that is a good time to remind too, is because of the call volume here, about a quarter of the district's the fire district's calls happen in the response zone of this station, both in the city and immediately adjacent to the city. And so if we are going to be out of service for any period of time because of that call volume, it is our practice within the department to move somebody here immediately. So I will give you an example. The unit here responds on a significantly ill person, respiratory arrest, cardiac arrest. They've revived them, and they're going to transport them to Peace Health Southwest. And if our firefighters ride along, the La Center unit or the Ridgefield unit then moves to here, and we start shuffling rigs for that coverage, because we know that statistically it's more likely that another call is going to occur in this area before it's going to occur in one of our other areas because of the volume here. So the Woodland area gets good coverage in that we never want to be more than 30 minutes. You know, if we know, hey, somebody needs to run down to the main station and sign some paperwork, a report that they forgot to sign or something, they'll run up there real quick and run back and do it. But we don't leave this area uncovered for extended periods of time, just because of the volume.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fredericks?
To echo what the mayor said, and there is still some concern in the community about, maybe we can do this with a volunteer department. Former Councilmember McCall and I were on the safety committee at the time when we looked at this, and we looked at it very extensively, and it just did not make sense for us to maintain a department any longer. It did not make any sense. The quality of service that we were providing was not where it needed to be. We had in one instance, we had a situation where one of our citizens' children were hit by a car, and he happened to be a nurse, and we were 25 minutes out on getting any aid to him. He had to start an IV with the Woodland volunteers that showed up because we didn't have a paramedic on staff. So those types of things, we looked at it, and we passed an additional tax to pay for that, because we weren't paying for the level of service that we needed. It doesn't work that way. I'm from the thriving metropolis of Ocean Park, Washington, and I can remember the day where the alarm would go off and everybody would come out of the woodwork and jump on the truck and go take care of the fire. Even today, Ocean Park does not have that type of service anymore. It just doesn't happen. So even that, the level of service that's being provided in Pacific County for those citizens is increased. I think Woodland should have the same. So, and I really do appreciate the partnership that we have, because I think it's a good one, and I think the quality of service that we're getting is a lot better. The only thing that I would add is let us know when the engine's here. I'd like to see it when it comes.
The new engine.
Oh, wow.
It's 13 months.
13 months.
Yes, I'm still dismayed to know that there's not a dealer lot full of brand new fire engines. You get in line, and there's only a few major manufacturers in the United States, about 3, that do most of the work. And so we buy Pierce. They're made in Wisconsin, and it's going to take us about 13 months. So we signed a purchase order this week.
It's like police cars. It takes almost a year to get one.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
We just talked about
It's an essential service for every city. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here tonight. Moving on to consent. Sorry, no, we're not. Mr. Boyce.
We forgot.
All right.
Oh, what I forgot. Yeah, just 1 minute, Mr. Boyce, I'm sorry. The COG and the Southwest Washington Regional Transportation appointment for city reps. Mrs. Rounds has offered to start attending. For those of you that can remember the conversation we just had with Ms. Humbird, she was attending the COG meetings, and Mr. Boyce currently is the backup to representing Woodland on the COG board, and Mrs. Rounds has graciously thrown her name into the hat to attend the COG meeting the third Thursday of every month at noon up in Longview. Is that correct? Okay. Is there anyone else that, yes, Mr. Boyce?
We would also need another volunteer for the Southwest Regional Transportation Plan.
Do we know when they meet?
I do not. Can find out.
I believe it's in the middle of the day when most of us are working.
I'm sure it is.
Let me look into that one. I've been very vocal with them. I may be able to.
Their choice.
They're on my list right now, and they know it. So maybe I'll just start showing my face. Well, let me find out when the meetings are. Are you looking it up now, Mr. Boyce?
I'm attempting to.
Okay, unless council has a desire to serve on the Southwest Regional Transportation Board.
I know she was looking for an additional meeting to attend, so.
All right, so Mrs. Rounds, you're good with the COG?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else with a burning desire to serve on the Southwest Regional Transportation Board? Or not the board, I'm sorry. I don't think that we have a spot on the board at this point. I'm working on that as well, to have a bigger voice instead of it coming out of Battleground.
Depends on the time, I think.
Yeah, it will. So, Mr. Boyce, we'll get together and we'll figure out when that is, and it'll probably be someone from myself or our executive team. Okay, if council's okay with that. Okay, so Mrs. Rounds, congratulations on your appointment.
I knew you could do it.
Mr. Boyce.
Okay, I'll keep it quick. I also was at the chamber banquet. I didn't win a centerpiece.
Oh.
So I have no flowers at my home. Also attended the chamber meeting today at lunch, and I thought also Travis did a tremendous job giving the update with Exit 21. There were some good questions from the audience too, so it's well worth doing. In the packet, you have the November 2019 finance report. We're working hard to finish up 2019. A big part of it is some of the vouchers that were paid tonight, so finance will be working on that. Upcoming community events. The 2020 council meeting calendar is out. City Action Days in Olympia, November 28th and 29th. And I think we discussed about who is going, and if anyone wants to carpool, we can take the city vehicle up, just let me know. February 18th, the volunteer recognition reception at 6 p.m. at council chambers. It was rescheduled from a previous date and time. And also, we needed to talk about the council retreat, February 1st. I don't think we're going to be prepared for that date at this point, and we may need to look at rescheduling.
Well, no.
Yes, Mr. Carter? What did you say?
I said, well, now. See, every year we try to do it early. This is what happens.
Yes, I know. It is my fault. I'm the one that's always pushing it. I'm the one that's always trying to push it into January, and we got to February 1st this year instead of mid-February, and it's just too soon. I'm personally not prepared to have the conversation yet. So I'm taking the heat on this one. I'm the one that needs to reschedule it.
So what are we looking? Are we doing
We don't
that
know.
now? or are
I'll
we
bring
just
that back.
gonna-
I'll bring it back.
Wonderful.
I'll bring
I
it
will
back.
be gone
The 9th to the
How many
14th.
COG meetings are in there?
How convenient.
You can sit in for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be ready in February.
Okay.
So we'll be looking. We'll give council plenty of notice to so we can finalize the date for that. Not September. It'll be in the spring sometime, probably.
Just one other thing I just wanted to mention, just so it's out there, is The city's been dealing with a number of public information requests, some quite large. So it's been taxing our clerk treasurer's office staff and other departments in the city. It's, some of these can be quite large and time consuming, and as many of you know, you can't really recoup those costs the way the rate structure is set. So anyway, we're plugging away at it, trying to support the clerk treasurer's office as much as possible until we can get through some of these larger items.
It's not the current rate structure, it's the state law,
Well,
right?
it's
Correct?
a-
I mean,
yeah.
we could charge them $25 for a piece of paper.
Well, state statute dictates what we can
Zero.
charge.
For the
Yep.
most part.
But they can be quite onerous, and it does take a lot of time. I mean, we're talking months to fill some of the requests, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of those requests that's holding us up is...
And there are substantial penalties for noncompliance with that statute, and we're being as diligent as possible trying to meet those requirements.
And one of those large requests are from our partners at the county. So they're also costing us some time and effort out of our office for some reason, even though we've asked them to retract that. It's an attempt to stonewall the city, my opinion. So, questions for Mr. Boyce? All right, moving on to consent items. Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Mr. Plaza. By Councilmember Plaza. Will clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember, Holland?
Aye.
Sorry, they're not in here
Yeah,
yet.
it's okay. It's your first meeting. It's your first meeting with Mrs. Holland. It's fine. You get a pass. All right. All the consent items have passed, A through G. Does council want a break before jumping into action items?
I'd as soon get her done.
Okay.
Well, are we doing the workshop?
You want to take a break at the workshop? We can do that break before that too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to action item H, ordinance number 1454, creating new fund 329 for TIB, which is Transportation Improvement Board. Grant regarding Garrick Street paving project, first and final reading.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1454.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
The title of the ordinance is exactly what we're doing here, so I don't think much explanation is needed.
Councilmember Rounds.
No comment.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on action item H, ordinance 1454?
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Action item H has passed. Moving on to action item I, resolution number 716 regarding sales tax and affordable housing.
I move to pass. What is this? Resolution number 716.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Holland, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Holland.
Well, this gives us the opportunity to retain our sales tax, and the county doesn't need it.
Councilmember Chapman.
I agree.
Further discussion? Councilmember Plaza.
Okay, basically, it's just a clarifying question for me, because after reading through this, I'm a little confused. So, on the summary here, it says that Resolution 716, at the end of the day, is a credit against the sales tax rate at 6.5, so will not increase the sales tax for consumers. In the body of it, it says in order to qualify for this, that a city needs a qualifying local tax in order to receive the full amount. If the city does not have the qualifying local tax, the city will only receive 0.0073%, and the county will get the other half. And further in, it defines the qualifying local tax as a sales or property tax that a city has imposed separately from this, so I guess it's not completely untrue that this won't increase taxes. Where am I? To address that the tax to address affordable housing related issues. So what I'm kind of confused about, and that the bill only applies to cities and towns and allows them to double the sales tax credit. So what I'm confused about is, at the end of the day, if we pass this, and in order to get the full amount, the whole 1.46%, are we going to need to impose the sales and property tax on the citizens of the city?
It's my understanding that no, we would not need to do that.
Okay. That's basically what I clear up, because the way I read it, it reads that in order to qualify for the full amount, we will have to. So, am I wrong?
Councilmember Holland.
Mr. Boyce, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the new legislation that just happened a couple of months ago.
Right.
And so for us to qualify, we actually have to make this motion to be able to even qualify to get it.
Right.
So it's actually, there's a thing that you can do online and check to see who in your area is actually applied for. Has had their council meetings to vote on this yet. But to be able to get the money, which is just retaining parts of our sales tax instead of giving it to the state.
Right.
Yeah.
But are we going to have to impose a separate property or sales tax in order to keep that money?
It's my understanding that no, that's not the case. I will verify, but the action of adopting this resolution shouldn't have any implications on that.
That was my understanding too, that it diverts money that would go to the state.
Yeah, no, I get that what's the number? House Bill 1406, that's what that does. And the bill itself doesn't impose it. But for the way I'm reading it, you're much smarter than me, so let me know if I'm wrong. The way I'm reading it is, if in order to qualify for the whole amount that we should be getting, that we have to impose this qualifying local tax. The counties don't have to, but under tax rates for participating counties on page 307, or page 145 of our packet, and under tax rates for participating cities, it says that for cities that do not have a qualifying local tax, you'll receive only 0.73% or a half share, but only if your county also elects to participate. If the county doesn't participate in the qualifying local tax, then the next paragraph down, it says that you'll receive the full 0.0146% through July 27th of this year, but after that, nobody receives anything. So I'm kind of feel like that, they're expecting us to be like Oliver Twist and come back and, ask for some more, please, in order to get our full amount. And I really don't like some outside entity having that kind of, power of authority over what we do here.
Well, let me review it again with the city attorney. I'm still recommending that you adopt the resolution tonight. That won't tie us to creating any new tax. Adopting the resolution will not. So I'd recommend that we adopt the resolution. We'll come back with an answer to you at the next city council meeting. Again, it was my understanding that we would not have to create any additional tax.
Well, that's the way I read it up first,
Right.
too, but
and
then I
I
got
understand
deeper
where
into
you're
it.
coming from.
Yeah.
Sounds like we at least get it half without doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's a rebate back on the money we're already paying.
Yes.
Correct.
And they're just deciding on how much they want to give us, depending on what we do for them. That's all I've got.
Anything further? All right, will the clerk please take the vote on Resolution 716, action item I?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
No.
Councilmember, Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
No.
Councilmember Rounds?
No.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
All right, make sure I get this right. Action item I passes 4-3. Moving on to action item J, ordinance number 1447, amending various sections of Woodland Municipal Code for code updates, first reading.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1447.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Fredericks.
I have no discussion. This is much needed.
Councilmember Plaza.
Same.
Further discussion? Seeing no one else, will the clerk please take the vote on action item J?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Action item J has passed. Moving on to action item K, ordinance number 1448, amending chapter 17 point, has not been assigned yet.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I don't remember this number off the top of my head.
Okay. Woodland Municipal Code relating to code enforcement, first reading.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1448.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
I think these make sense. The Planning Commission, if Planning Commission recommended 4-0 to move forward, makes sense to me, and I am in agreement with the Commission's findings.
Councilmember Rounds.
I conclude with Mr. Fredericks.
Further discussion? Seeing nothing else, will the clerk please take the vote on action item K, ordinance number 1448?
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Action item K has passed. Moving on to action item L, declare emergency and authorize emergency repair to lift station number 6 on Lewis River Road.
I make a motion to approve action item L, which is declare emergency and authorize emergency repair to lift station number 6 on Lewis River Road.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Rounds.
It had to be done.
Councilmember Smith.
Emergency repair, it's got to be done.
Yep.
Further discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Plaza?
A few months ago, I thought the funding that was in the emergency fund was gone.
It's outlined in the bottom of the agenda item where the funds are coming from, and
Oh.
on the top of the agenda item. So if you go to the very top, there's the 3 bars code line items of what funds it's coming out of, and it also talks in the bottom of the paragraph that those funds are going to be now depleted.
Okay.
I'm taking it out of 3 separate funds.
So you're not requesting a budget amendment at this time?
No, I'm not. But if
there
they have
will
another
be.
failure, I will be.
Got it. Makes sense.
If you have another failure.
That makes sense.
So one of the funds is for lift stations, and it's depleting it because it's half of the fund, half of the fund. And then the other one is professional services, because some of it is professional services we're using for immediate emergency, and then some of it is coming out of the project fund.
Okay.
Further discussion?
So there was $60,000 in the budget we weren't aware of?
No, there isn't. That's my whole point.
No, I understand.
I'm saying we're depleting it in case we had to replace a pump. And now we're doing an entire lift station. And it doesn't make sense that we repaired 10 feet when we can repair 90 feet for 20 more thousand. So, the pipe, and I showed pictures to show you that the pipe needs to be replaced.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Ms.
Okay.
Coleman.
Gosh darn it. I was ready for you.
She showed up prepared tonight.
I am, it's
I need a budget amendment for that, Fredericks.
Okay. Anything further on action item L? Well done, Ms. Coleman. Will the clerk please take the vote on emergency repair for lift stays in 6?
We don't have to replace it or fix it, but we do want to. We really want to. Whole east side of the sewer line, so.
Oh, please fix it.
East side feed.
Mrs. Anderson, take off.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Action item L has passed, and the residents will be happy that are serviced by that line.
Yes.
At this time, it is 8:08. We'll go into a 10-minute recess and then come back for a workshop.